Hello everyone, it's Rhonda and welcome to a new video. We are actually at the beginning of a brand new month and that means it's time for me to do my June reading wrap up. I had a pretty good reading month in the month of June. I read about 18 books, or I attempted to read about 18 books. I did DNF 4 books. That means I have about 14 books that I actually did finish. Some of these books are brand new releases. Actually, quite a few of them are brand new releases. Some of them are some of my most eagerly anticipated releases of the year, and I cannot wait to talk about them. Everyone, it's Future Rhonda. I'm actually editing this video right now and I realized I never went over my TBR for June. As you guys know, I use my prompt jar to help me pick my TBR for each month, but last month I had ChatGPT help me pick that TBR and it was a hit. It picked some really good books and I read all of them, or I attempted to read all of them. If you hear my dogs, I'm so sorry. It is late in the afternoon and they are crazy in the late afternoon, so they are playing. Anyway, but I read every single book in June that was on my TBR. Yay, I'm so excited. This is the first time I've ever done that. So I'll have a little box with all the books that were chosen by ChatGPT so you can see what books were picked and which ones I read. First, I do want to talk about the 4 books that I did DNF. The first book I want to talk about is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings, and I'm just going to say that I was not the right demographic for this book. I think if you are younger, like in your 20s, you would probably really enjoy this. I think if you don't know any Southern people, you would probably enjoy this because there were a lot of stereotypes in this book that were making me very angry. Were kind of pissing me off. My main beef with this, other than the Southern stereotypes, was I did not like any of the characters in this book. Now the family I think you're not supposed to like, but I really did not like our female main character. She came across as very condescending, a little bit of a bigot, and I did not like her. I did go on Google to see what happened at the end because I was curious enough about it, and it had an interesting plot twist. So I would only recommend this if you're younger, or maybe if you're older. If you like Jessa Hastings, you might enjoy this, but it just wasn't for me. The second book I DNF'd was Swordhe Heart by T. Kingfisher. I have read one other book by this author. I read a gothic fantasy and I really enjoyed that one. So I was under the impression I would enjoy this too. I thought she wrote only gothic fantasies. I was very wrong. This is a cozy fantasy and I do not like cozy fantasies. They are too slow for me. So this one was a miss. This is a beautiful book though. I mean, I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to ever unhaul it. Well, I'm not going to say I'm never going to unhaul it, but I'm not going to unhaul it anytime soon just because it is a really pretty book and I think it'll look pretty on my shelves. But I think if you like cozy fantasies, you would enjoy this. I think I DNF'd it like halfway through and nothing was happening. Like they were just wandering around the forest and various villages talking and I needed something more to happen, but nothing happened in it, and that's why I DNF'd it. I needed something more. The next book I DNF'd, and I'm really sad about it, is Georgie All Along by Kate Claiborne. This is kind of like a general fiction slash contemporary fiction or women's fiction, and this one was just very, very slow and I was really bored with it. I can handle slow burns. There is a romance in here. I can handle slow burn romances, but this was a little too slow. This is another book where I DNF'd it almost halfway through. I think I was around the 40% mark and I was just like, I can't read anymore. It was very wordy. I mean, I know it's a book. There's gonna be words in a book, but it was just like, okay, get to the point. You know, one of those type situations. So this is another one I DNF'd. And then the last book I DNF'd is a digital ARC that I got from NetGalley, and I'm really bummed about this one, and that is The Proposal Project by Donna Marchetti. I read Hate Mail last year, and you guys know I've talked about this book so much. I really love that book. It was so funny and cute, and I'm always recommending it. So I was expecting kind of the same thing with The Proposal Project, and again, I think the common theme for this month was I was bored. So I was kind of bored reading that book, and it's another book that I DNF'd about 30-ish% of the way through. But that one is about 2 people whose best friends are dating each other, and they both want to propose to each other. And so we're following our female main character and our male main character, and they're trying to help their friend propose to the other person. However, our female main character and our main male characters, I can't remember their names, they don't like each other and they're trying to sabotage the work the other one's trying to do. So essentially that's what the book is about. The plot was not plotting. The plot was pretty weak. And I knew going in that this was probably just going to be a fluffy little romance, but I was expecting to enjoy it, and I just really wasn't. Again, I was bored, and I just did not care about that book. So these are the 4 books that I DNF'd this month. I'm pretty bummed about that. But I did finish 14 books, and the very first book that I finished in the month of June is Queen of Shadows. This is the 1, 2, 3, I think this is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, not including the prequel, and this was a 5-star read. I really enjoyed this one. Last month I finished Air of Fire, and I think I gave that one 3 stars, and I told you guys I thought that was kind of like a book that was setting up this book, and I was right. That one was definitely, it wasn't a filler book, but it was just kind of getting all of the ducks in a row so that she could just really hit you with this book. In case you don't know, the whole Throne of Glass series is about, or at least the first book is about, Selena, and you're following her as she is competing to become the king's assassin. And really, that was, it goes way off from there, but that's the gist of what the first book is about, and I can't tell you anything else for these other books because it will spoil them. But I love this book. I kept picking it up. I didn't want to set it down, and just things were constantly happening. There was a lot of action scenes. There was a lot of shocking information we were given throughout the book, and it was just a really book that was captivating, and I couldn't put it down. So this was a 5-star read. And then I got another digital art copy called The Ghost Rider by Julie Clark. This is a mystery thriller, and this was a 4-star read. I really enjoyed this one. So this one is about a woman. She is a ghostwriter for a career. She writes memoirs for celebrities and politicians, and she is hired to ghostwrite the next novel of this very famous horror/thriller writer. And think Stephen King. But she's kind of hesitant to do it for 2 reasons. First, she doesn't write horror books or thrillers. She only writes memoirs. And then second, the author that she's supposed to ghostwrite for is her estranged father. So she ends up taking the job, and while she's there, her dad's like, hey, we're not going to write this book. Instead, I want you to write my memoir. And the reason why he's writing the memoir is when he was younger, his older brother and younger sister were murdered, and everyone has always thought that he did it. So he wants to put all the cards on the table and tell everyone what really happened that night. And so her job is to kind of go through his notes and interview him and write this memoir. And this book was really, really good. This was definitely kind of a mystery. It was also a little bit of a thriller. You're trying to figure out, along with our female main character, what happened that night with her, I guess, her uncle and her aunt. She also has a very strained relationship with her dad. So you see them trying to work together and work through the problems they've had. And so I really loved the father-daughter dynamics of the book too. So overall, I gave this one 4 stars. I thought the author did a really good job of really building the tension and the depth between our female main character and her dad. It just made everything feel really personal, and it just added to the suspense of the book. So I think if you are looking for a good new summer thriller, I would say definitely pick this one up. I really enjoyed it, and it's a book that I would probably recommend next year for like a summer thriller rec video. The next book I read is Taylor Jenkins Reid's newest book, and that is Atmosphere. This one is kind of like a historical fiction, but it's also very heavy-handed with the romance. In fact, on the underneath the title of the book, it says a love story. So I would say it's 70% romance, 30% historical fiction. So I enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I did have some problems with it, and I'm gonna go over those problems first, and then I'll tell you what I liked about it at the end. But the main problem I had with this book, by the way, this is about women in the space program in the early 1980s, and we're following a woman named, I think her name is Joan, as she applies for their astronaut program. They open it up to women, and she applies for it. So we're following her as she's doing that, and as she's going through her training and all of that. But the problem I had with this book is I felt like I read a version of this book before. It kind of has a forbidden romance, and I felt like at least that whole plot was something that wasn't new to me, specifically with this author. I've read it before, and I was just hoping for something a little bit fresher. That's not to say the romance in here was not good. It was actually very, very good. I really enjoyed it, but I just wanted something different. Also, too, I was wanting more. Okay, I don't like books about science. Typically those are books that bore me to tears, but I am very interested in the space program, and I was very interested in how women were treated in the 1980s as they were going to become the first female astronauts. So I was really wanting more of that. Also, there is something that happens in space in this book, and I really wanted to be there and learning more about that rather than spending so much time on the romance. And then finally, with the end of this book, it just kind of ends suddenly, and I turned the page thinking there was going to be a short little epilogue, and there wasn't. And I felt like I needed more closure with the ending, which is weird because I feel like I'm constantly reading books that just will not end, and I'm always like, okay, let's finish this up, you know? And this one, I feel like I needed just a little bit more closure. But other than that, this was a very good book. I gave it 4 stars. It's not my favorite by her so far, but I did really enjoy it. The writing was so good, just like all of her other books that I've read. She has a way of just, with that first paragraph, just pulling you into the story and not letting you go until the last word. And I think I read this in less than 24 hours. It was just so good. The writing was great. I kept turning the page, and just overall, the reason why it's not a 5-star read is I just wanted something a little bit different, a little bit fresher, and really that was it. But this is still a solid 4-star book, and I would absolutely recommend it. And yes, I did cry. The next book I read is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This is the follow-up to her previous book called Every Summer After, and this is another 4-star read. This was so good. So in this book, you're following Alice, and when she was a teenager, her and her grandmother spent a portion of the summer at Barry's Bay, and while she was there, she saw a group of teenagers just having fun, and she'd always wanted to be part of that group, but she never talked to them or anything. But she does end up taking a photo, and with that photo, it really brought on a love of photography, and that is what she does as an adult now. As a career, she is a photographer. Well, her grandmother ends up falling down and having an accident, and her spirits are just kind of low, so Alice ends up taking her grandmother back to Barry's Bay to just lift her spirits and just to get away for a little summer vacation. Well, while she's there, she runs into Charlie Florrick, who ends up being one of the boys that she took a picture of, and this was so good. The banter in here was so flirty, and it's actually some of the best banter that I read in a while. It was so good, and I would definitely recommend this book if you're looking for just a summer lake life book. When I was reading this book, I stopped midway and was going on to Airbnb trying to find some lake houses to rent next summer because it just really wanted me to go to the lake and just have a fun summery time. But I love the story. I love the love story. I love the connection between our 2 main characters. There was also a lot more depth in this book than I was expecting, and I would have to say this is my favorite Carly Fortune book. So if you're looking for a good summery book that's set at a lake, that has depth and emotional pull, then I would absolutely recommend this. I would say go ahead and read Every Summer After first. I think you could read them out of order. It wouldn't be a big deal, but I think it might hit a little bit harder, and you'll be more familiar with some of the characters if you read them in order. So this was a 4-star read, and I do recommend it. Oh, this next book. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is Everything's Coming Up Rosie by Courtney Walsh. This is her newest release that came out this month too, and this was a surprise 5-star read. So in this book, you're following Rosie, who's kind of a struggling stage actress, and she ends up getting a job at a theater in this small town, and she thinks it's just a small town theater that she's going to be the creative director for. Well, little does she know, it's actually for a theater in a retirement community, and she is in charge of directing a group of senior citizens to put on a production of Cinderella. So this book was so delightful. Pick this one up. It was so cute. Our female main character is hilarious. I mean, this book is not poking fun at senior citizens at all. Our main character, Rosie, is just a very quirky character. She's hilarious. She's so funny. And I just really enjoy this. The way this is written, the characters just jumped off the page. It was really good character development. And then the ending was not what I was expecting. Usually with these type of little fluffy romance books, I'm expecting things to fall in a certain formula, and this one didn't, and I really like that. But Rosie completely stole the show. I loved all the characters. We are introduced to a group of senior citizens who were funny in their own way. I loved the dynamics between each other, and this was just a fun story. There was some depth in here. I cried a little bit, and if you're looking for a heartfelt, wholesome, clean romance that is really funny and it's layered with some emotional depth, go pick this one up. It was so cute. This is my favorite Courtney Walsh book that I read so far. 5 stars. Another new release that I read this month is Riley Sager's newest book called With a Vengeance, and I'm really surprised by the negative reviews that are coming in about this book. On Goodreads, it has, I think, a 3.49 rating right now, which is really low. But I think the reason why I enjoyed this more because I was going into this one expecting something very, very different. And I think that's why I was able to enjoy this one. Riley Sager writes, in the past, he's written very creepy thrillers that have a little bit of a paranormal twist sometimes. And this one is far from that. This one is definitely more of a Murder on the Orient Express retelling. And I also got some Clue vibes in this one. So if you enjoyed the movie Clue, maybe give this a try too. But this one is definitely more of a classic locked room on a train murder mystery where people are getting knocked off one by one and you're trying to figure out who's doing what. So I went into this one with that mindset, and I think that really helped me enjoy this one. And I ended up giving it 4 stars. With all Riley Sager books, his writing is very, very good. It's very fast paced and it's full of twists. This book was definitely twisty. It kept me on my toes. I will say this was not very realistic, but it was entertaining and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And again, go in and adjust your expectations with this one because it is completely different than what he's written before, and I really enjoyed it. The next book I read is The Women by Kristen Hanna. I believe this one came out last year, and this is actually my second Kristen Hanna book, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is my favorite. I read The Nightingale, I think last October, and that was a 5-star read. I really enjoyed that. This is a 6-star read. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This one is about women who served in the Vietnam War. Specifically, we're following Frankie as she joins the military and she goes off to the Vietnam War and her experiences in the war. But also a big chunk of this book is when she gets home and how she is treated not only by society but by her family and friends, and how she acclimates to civilian life. This was incredible. I was ugly crying through a lot of it, and it was just phenomenal. And the writing is so good. You can tell how much research Kristen Hanna did for this book because everything she was going over are things that I picked up on with my uncles who went to the Vietnam War. So I felt like this is a very realistic overview of what anyone who came home from the Vietnam War experience. So it was definitely emotional. It was hard hitting, and some parts of this book were really hard to read. So also what I liked about this book is how she covered the incredible friendships that Frankie formed. These women formed a bond that was unshakable. They went through hell and back with each other, and they supported and just lifted each other up in ways that no one else could. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I think overall the characters just felt so real to me. I rooted for the characters. I felt for them, and I don't think I'm going to forget them. I think this is a book that's going to stay with me, that I'm going to think about all the time. And if you want a book that really captures strong female friendships, but also covers the Vietnam War and what soldiers and nurses who were over there experienced, then definitely pick this one up because I felt like it was really true to life as to what they went through. So after that emotionally draining book, I needed something lighter and fluffier that was going to make me giggle and laugh and kick my feet. So I picked up Never Been Shipped by Alicia Thompson, and I read The Art of Catching Feelings by this author last year and really enjoyed it. That was a 4-star read, so I was expecting more of the same. Sadly, I did not love this one, and honestly, I think I should have DNF'd it, and I gave it 2 stars, and I think the overall theme with it was I was bored. I was bored through most of it. I could care less about the characters. I just think there wasn't a lot of character development. And then the other thing I didn't like was the romance in here. There is a romance between our female main character, Micah, and John, and I think I just needed more. I needed more history. I needed more build-up from their friendship to the more part of their relationship. I just needed something more to make me feel invested, and I did not care. So overall, this one just fell flat for me. I was not interested in it, and I really, really, really should have DNF'd it. So this one was a 2-star read, sadly. The next book I read is something very, very dark, and that is Varity by Colleen Hoover. Oh my God. This was incredibly disturbing. It was so dark, and quite a bit of it was very hard to read, but at the same time, I couldn't put it down. It was kind of like a train wreck. I just wanted to keep reading, even though I was like, oh my God, what the heck is going on? This is about Lowen, and she is a struggling writer, and she gets hired by, what's his name? Jeremy Crawford, who is the husband of a very successful thriller writer by the name of Varity Crawford. And she has written a series of thrillers that are all interconnected. However, she's had an accident, and they need someone to come in and go through all of her notes and ghostwrite the last books. So Lowen ends up being hired, and she moves into this house, and she starts going through the notes. And as she's going through the notes, she finds a secret diary by Varity that is so dark and twisted, it made my mind just explode. I was like, what the heck is going on? This book was so twisty and so just messed up, but I kind of liked it. I gave this one 4 stars, which is shocking to me because usually books where there's disturbing elements involving children, I don't like those books, but I was able to read this and I couldn't put it down. Also, too, the way this ended, I felt like was perfect because it kind of lets the reader decide what happened. And sometimes I do like books that end in a way where it's up to the reader to decide, did she, didn't she, what do you think happened? So overall, loved it, gave it 4 stars. This was messed up, I'm not gonna lie, it's not gonna be for everyone, but I enjoyed it because I guess I do have a little bit of a darker side to me too that was able to read it just fine, but this was a 4-star read. The next book I read is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson, and this one is definitely kind of a whodunit type, I wouldn't say it's a cozy mystery, but just a whodunit type mystery, and I gave this one 3 stars. I liked it, I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it enough to pick up his second book. I featured that in my book haul called something about a train. I don't know, but I got that book because I'm curious enough about it to read that one. But this one, I think this style of writing, I think it's called meta mystery, where the author or the main character is talking to you, the reader, like he's saying, so there's going to be a death on these pages, just so you know. I mean, he's talking directly to you. And I don't mind that. I don't mind when an author talks directly to the reader. I don't mind that fourth wall being broken through, but I think with this one it got a little bit annoying. So this one is, like I said, it is a murder mystery. It's a whodunit mystery, and we are following a family as they go kind of like a family reunion at this resort. It's set in the middle of the winter, so there's a snowstorm coming through, and there's just a mystery you're trying to solve, and some people are dying. Overall, I felt like this was just a frustrating read because it seemed like the author was trying too hard to be clever, and I just really wanted him to get to the point instead of skirting around everything. You know what I mean? I enjoyed the mystery, and I loved how things kind of fell in place, but I was not a fan of how we got there. I've heard this book is being adapted. I'm not sure if it's a movie or a series, but I think I would probably enjoy that better than it is in book form. I feel like it would correlate on the screen a little bit better. I think it would be a little bit more funnier and tongue-in-cheek, and I might like that version better than the book form. But again, 3 stars. It was fine. Liked it, didn't love it, but enjoyed it enough to read something else by him. The next book I read is Ashley Poston's newest book called Sounds Like Love, and this was really cute. I love this book. I gave it 4 stars. It was not a 5-star read. Did not get the 5-star feels, but it was a solid 4-star book, and I really, really enjoy it. This was just a sweet and tender, bittersweet romance with a touch of magical realism. Here we're following Joni, and she is a very successful songwriter. However, this past year, she has a little bit of writer's block, and she hasn't been able to write music. One day she starts hearing things in her head, and I'm not going to go into what she's hearing because I don't want to give things away, but it was very interesting, and I like that magical realism aspect of it. This book does lean heavily on music and songwriting, and normally I'm really not into those books, as you can tell with Never Been Shipped. I think the music really I wasn't into that, but I was able to read it in here just because it was interesting. I loved how our characters connected through music. The romance in here was funny. There was some humor, there was some heartache, and there was just also hope, and it was just all beautifully blended together and just a really solid romance. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed how the music was used to connect our characters. I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed the emotional depth. And I think the things that were lacking in her book last year, she really took her time with in this book, and that was the romance and taking the time and being patient with our characters. I think she did a phenomenal job with that. So this was cute, loved it, recommend it. It's 4 stars. All right, we are almost there. I have 3 books left to talk about, and the next one is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was a book I was supposed to read last year, and I kept putting it off, and putting it off because I felt like I just really wasn't going to enjoy it. So I added it to my summer TBR, and I told myself, you were going to read this in June and you're going to get it over with. And I think the reason why I was kind of putting this one off is because I was expecting it to be kind of like Beach Read, and I did not like Beach Read. I gave that one 2 stars. But I went into this with low expectations, and I ended up enjoying it more than I thought I was going to. This author's writing is just so sharp and engaging. She's a great writer. She does know how to craft a decent story. But what I liked about this one is not really the romance. I enjoyed the friendship in this book. Here you are following Harriet and Wynn, and they had this group of friends that they've been friends with since college. And every summer they go, I don't know if it's a lake house or a beach house, I'm not sure, but they go on this vacation together every summer, and they just hang out as friends, and it's something they look forward to every year. Well, apparently the house that they usually go to is about to be sold. So this is the last year where they can have this friend vacation together. And in this book, we're following Harriet and Wynn, and they have been dating. They're actually engaged, but I think 6 months prior, they broke up and didn't tell their friends. But because this is one of their last vacations at this house, they decide to continue to keep it secret that they're not together anymore, and they kind of fake date. So with this one, I really didn't care about the romance. I cared more about the friendships, because I think that Emily Henry did a great job of explaining how friendships shift and change as you go through adulthood. As you get into your 30s, you know, with my friends, we go on a girls trip every summer. I'm actually about to go to Charleston next week with my college best friends. And with my own friendships, you know, everything changes once you get to a certain age. People have children, people get married, people get divorced. I think Emily Henry did a great job of covering the shifting dynamics of adulthood and friendships in this book. It was very realistic. With all that said, the romance, like I said, just really didn't work with me. The constant push and pull between Wynn and Harriet was driving me crazy. There was also a lot of lack of communication that I just really did not enjoy. I felt like if they would just sit down and talk about their feelings and talk about what they want out of their relationship, it would have saved them heartache and 6 months of their lives. But overall, I liked it. I would probably recommend it as a summer read just because it's set in the summertime, and I felt like Emily Henry, again, did a great job of covering friendships as you're going into adulthood. So this was a 3-star read. All right, the next book I read is a YA mystery thriller. So right before I picked up this book, I'll get into it in just a minute, I started to read Georgie All Along, DNF'd it, and then I picked up The Proposal Project and DNF'd that one. So I was feeling kind of slumpy. So I just needed something easy to read that was going to pull me in and I can just kind of breeze through it. I ended up picking up the second book in the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this one is Killer Instinct. And I can't get into this one too much, but this whole series is about a group of teenagers who have special abilities. Like 2 of them are profilers, or good at reading people. Another one can look at a crime scene and tell you exactly what happened. One is a human lie detector, those type of abilities. Anyway, they are brought into this house by the FBI, and they're kind of under wraps. It's kind of classified, and they use their special abilities to solve cold cases. So book 1 was about a specific case, and this book is about a second case, and I'm really enjoying this series. I gave this one 4 stars, and if you're looking for just something that is fast-paced and bingeable, I would say definitely pick up this series. This came in at the right time. It's just what I needed. Like I said, I wanted something that would pull me out of the little slump I was seeing myself headed into, and it definitely did that. But this one was just super addictive, and I just flew through it. So if you're looking for a good YA mystery series, I would say pick this one up. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Okay, we have made it to my very last book that I read, and I'm actually filming this on Monday, June 30th, and I finished this book last night. I stayed up a little late finishing it, and that is Summers at the Saint by Mary Kay Andrews, and this is my very first Mary Kay Andrews book, and it's not going to be my last. I really enjoyed this one. This is about, so, you know, it's actually kind of hard to explain what this is about. This is general fiction. Women, actually it's probably more like women's fiction. There's a little bit of everything. There is drama, there's scandal, there's female friendships, there's a mystery, there's, did I say scandal? And there's also a little bitty teeny tiny romance. But here you're following through the POV of several people, people who work at a very exclusive resort on the coast of Georgia called the Saint, and things have happened and you're trying to solve this mystery as to what's going on, and really you're just following their day-to-day life. And I think really that's all I can say about this book. It's so hard to explain what it's about. With this one, I was just completely invested in the comings and goings of not only the people who work at the Saint, but people who are staying there. And it was just a fun and layered story. Okay, sorry, I had to change my battery real quick, but I was talking about the very last book that I read, and I think I was telling you kind of what this one was about. But overall, what I liked about this one, I felt like the writing was really easy to get through and it was bingeable. I read this over the weekend and I felt like it was just a perfect summer weekend read. It was just what I was looking for. And while some of the dialogue, I'm not gonna lie, some of the dialogue is actually pretty cringe, it didn't take away from the experience of this book. I think if you're just looking for a book that's entertaining, that has some drama and heart and plenty of twists, then I think you would enjoy this one. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it, and I do want to read more from this author, and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, let me see if I can lift this. It's so heavy. Oh my gosh. Okay, these are the 18 books that I attempted to read in the month of June. Please let me know in the comments what you read in June. What was your favorite book? What was your least favorite? Have you read any of these books? Do you agree or disagree with any of my reviews? Let me know all that down in the comments below. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.